You want to put out background music?
Oh, shoot. Hey, we're live.
Make it sexy.
Hey. Too little too late. Hold on. We put the music.
Banned.
Yeah, pretty much banned immediately. So I'm going to put a little bit of music on. Welcome to the locker room. It has been a long time since we've had a live show. A very long time.
Yes.
This individual to that side right there, he isn't a myth. He isn't a legend. He actually exists. Welcome, Fajardo. Welcome back to the Spin Zone.
Yes, sir. What a season, eh?
Yeah, it's been a crazy one. It's good to see you back in the host chair. I mean, yes. I'm going back to the boats tomorrow, so that's gonna be interesting to see how that disrupts the upload schedule. It will. All right, so. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
Lindy, Ruff.
Oof.
Fired. Oof, that's rough. That's rough.
His last name kind of just says it all, huh?
Well, that's rough news. So, let's kind of look into the standings here, and kind of just look and kind of examine why he is no longer the head coach of the New Jersey Devils. They are currently sitting 6th in the Metropolitan Division, 61 games played, 30 wins, 27 losses, 4 overtime losses for 64 points. Now, reasonably going into the season, I don't know about you, but I thought they'd be a pretty solid team. At least the 3rd spot in the Metro.
Incorrect in your statement, sir. What we said going into the season was they'd be good as long as their goaltending holds up, because Schmidt is the one that carried them past their first round last season as a surprise player, right? Nobody expected him to play as well as he did, and we didn't really think highly of their goalie tandem unless it was something that that we were like, okay, cool, if they can stand on their head like they did, going into the playoffs, then maybe yes. So that was what we did say, So just wanted to throw that out there.
By the way, I appreciate that, Tacticore. Yeah, it's been a long road, as you know. I'm excited to go back on the boats. I was told I'd get off every night, but then that's kind of changing. That's changing. So for me, when I look at the Devils, I look at a team that has a ton of talent, right? I don't think we could argue up front, and even some of the young defensive pieces on the back end, like they have a talented team that should be performing far better than they are. I'm actually going to pop up their roster right here. Lindy Ruff is going to be the scapegoat, right, in a lot of people's minds. But if we do recall, before the Devils turned things around, I think they had a rough start of last season, if I recall correct, and people were like screaming for him to get fired.
Yep.
I think he's putting himself in a situation where, like, okay, you had that nice surge, you had a good end to the season, you went into the playoffs, you ended up, doing something there, but ultimately, it seems like Lindy Ruff just wasn't able to get the most out of these players. I mean, just a few guys I know. Timo Meier, big addition, right? Making $8.8 million. 28 points in 48 games played. Not great, right? Yep. Jack Hughes, he hasn't been healthy the whole season. He's produced well. Hishire, Toffoli. Toffoli's been rumored in some trade talks, but it seems like he's not going to be moved. To me, when I look at the Rangers, like looking at the lineup, this should be a team that's at the very least in the wild card discussion. That should.
You can't be that rusty, bro. When you're looking at the Devils, not the Rangers. Just throwing that out there for you. I love you, bro. You just said the Rangers.
Oh, Rangers, sorry.
That's what I'm here for. That's why I came back on the show, because I can't let you be doing this type of stuff.
So listen. Shut up. So, you can't even speak. You can't speak to me. There's levels. No. All jokes aside, I mean, looking at the Devils, I say the Rangers because the Rangers actually show up more in the Devils barn than the Devils fans.
That is facts.
They have a solid roster on paper, but the goaltending has been an issue, right? Vanacek, Kira Schmid, Dawes, I mean, he looked good for a little bit, but, none of these numbers here from the goaltending, it's like, oh, wow, we really believe in this guy. All of them have a save percentage of .897 or lower.
Yep.
It's just not good enough, and that's why they've been kind of rumored in these conversations, like with a guy like Markstrom, right?
Yeah. So I mean, listen, let's be honest, right? The team overachieved last season, which is great. right? Great for the organization, great for hockey, period. When teams that are in major metropolitan areas overachieve and do well, it's good for hockey, period, right? But in this scenario, they figured that, their top two lines can carry. And that's where they made the mistake, because if you're looking at the teams that are more successful, they have three lines that can compete, not carry. Yeah. Right? And that's where they failed. That's where Lindy Ruff failed. Right? His mentality of having two lines that can carry wasn't good enough. They did what they could, but when you don't have a third and fourth line that can put something on the board all the time, it makes it tough, right? And as you can see by their numbers, it just wasn't sufficient. So once some of these guys got injured, right? Because I think Heischer was injured for a couple of games here or there.
Heischer, even Meyer, Jack Hughes. They all have 50 games or less.
Right. So if you had a third line that can put up some points, and I'm not saying they got to go out there and be like a second line. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they need to be able to show up and put up points. Third and fourth line were not there, and then you expected your goalies to carry the weakness of your defense. And normally the defense used to be pretty solid, but for some reason they seem to have lacked that. That I don't know, they're missing something. They're lacking something. I can't really put my finger on it, but it isn't that they're horrible. But when Brendan Smith is on your second defensive pair, that's a problem. He's a good player. Well, he can be a third. He can be a third line. Well, not a second.
Time on ice, and this is the one thing I'll kind of just caution you on, right? Because they have Luke Hughes in the bottom pairing, which he's not. He's leading there with time on ice. This is a little wonky. Smith is your sixth defenseman.
Right, but in key moments, I've noticed that they've put Brendan Smith out there.
I think for me, when I look at the Devils, Severson being dealt, I think hurt them far more than they expected it to.
Yeah.
And I think the goaltending has been mediocre. And I usually don't like to blame the goaltender. There's a lot more to the game than just the goalies. Like, the first thing people see, like, oh, shoot, he should have had that save, but they don't take into the account where...
the play that led up to it.
Exactly, right? Mm-hmm. For me, I look at this team, right, and this is actually, I definitely agree with you on this take. The secondary scoring hasn't been good enough for them to at least be average when they have their key players missing. They've had a lot of missed games due to injury, so I don't think it's all on Lindy Ruff. I think that'd be unfair to say. I think you put... most coaches in this situation, they would struggle to get the most out of their lineup because, I mean, let's just be honest. When you're missing your best players, it's hard to win games. But they should be far better than they are now. Looking at the wild card spot, they're fifth. They're 8 points back of a second place wild card spot with 2 games in hand on Tampa. Like, could they maybe this firing and bringing in a goaltender could maybe push them back to a playoff picture? But I don't think the coach alone is going to solve these issues. They're going to have to get a Markstrom. They're going to have to go trade and get themselves a good goaltender that they feel comfortable.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think they need 2 pieces. I think a goalie won't solve all their issues. I do agree that it'll solve a lot of their issues, but I don't think it'll be what'll carry them. It may help them make the playoffs, but it won't help them really do too much in the playoffs. I think that if they're going to be serious about making the playoffs and, trying to compete at a high level, they're going to need to find at least one more defenseman that can actually, bring not just defense to the board, but maybe bring a little more offense from the back end because, I mean, you have Luke Hughes, who everybody knows on that team for bringing, offense or whatever, but after that, it's kind of like a huge dip. Like, there's nobody else that's really providing that type of spark from the back end. And when you don't have that spark coming from the back end, it makes it very difficult for the forwards to carry all the play.
Yeah, I would also kind of say this, that depending on a 20-year-old to be the pivotal puck mover on the back end, that's a lot to expect out of a young player. Mm-hmm. I know he's drafted 4th overall, looked at very highly, but I mean, we have to take in consideration defensemen generally take a little bit longer to develop. I think Luke Hughes, for what he is right now, is spectacular. I think there are some parts of his game he needs to shore up. But I think, you look at the D-core, like 26, 26, 23, 20. Outside of Brendan Smith and Colin Miller, they're relatively young and they should keep improving. Do they go out and get a guy? Like, I mean, they haven't been rumored in this deal. I actually was making a video about Noah Hannafin and his possible destinations. But a guy like that ideally would work well on a team like the Devils if they did want to move, get a little bit more offense from their defense and a good guy in transition. And the good thing about Hannafin is he's a very good defender. He's not just an offensive D-man. Yeah. But I think this is a year of transition because I think unless they get a goaltender, it doesn't really matter who you get as a defenseman coming in, right? Yeah. Like they could go get themselves prime Zdeno Chara, right? Prime, like just an absolute monster. Yeah. Does not matter, right? Get prime like Lidstrom. It does not matter if your goalie can't make the stops. And right now for the Devils, that seems to be the case. And for whatever reason, Calgary's just complete full sell mode. Might as well try to see, like, hey, like, what's it going to take to put Markstrom in a Devils uniform?
Well, I mean, I've heard through some people that I know for quite some time already that that conversation has been had. It just keeps leading to, like, a brick wall. Like, it just won't go anywhere. The details weren't made, clear to me, but they said they kept hitting a brick wall, and it doesn't seem like they're going to pass that wall. So, in my eyes, if you're not getting, because I think he by far is one of the top three, if not the top, guy that's available in the market right now. But if you're not getting him, I don't think that anybody else is really gonna work too well for the Devils. They need someone who has, who's at that caliber where he's really good right now. For some, normally he has up and down seasons. I think you and I went over his stats towards the beginning of the season where he could be with Calgary, and we said that this would be a rebound year, right? Yeah. Because he has like 1 year where he does really good, then the next year is kind of down, then the next year he bounces back, and this was his rebound year, and it's showing, right? So if they catch him this year, it might be a good piece going into that last stretch of trying to really make the playoffs before the trade deadline. So for them, I think that it's Markstrom or you're completely just sold on not making the playoffs this year.
I mean, yeah, because like Markstrom, 39 games played, 21 wins, 2 shutouts, a 2.61 goals against average, 912 save percentage. He's 34 years old. Kind of showing the trend that what Fajardo was talking about. 912. 892, then 922, then 904, then 918.
Like up and down.
So, I mean, you're guaranteeing next year is going to be a little lesser, right? But anyway, I think a guy like Markstrom would bring some stability in New Jersey and have belief in that room. I think they don't believe in any of those goaltenders, and that makes a world of difference in my opinion. 100%. Because if you don't believe in the guy sitting between the pipes, you play a little bit more tentative, you play a little bit more conservative, and when you do that, right, it actually makes you play far worse defensively because you're not willing to have the puck in the other end at all. You're like just collapsing. I mean, there has been some teams where that has worked out, surprisingly, but I don't think that's necessarily the best thing for the future, in my personal opinion. And when it comes to the Calgary Flames, like, they're kind of in sell now mode. They're trying to move on from some pieces. They're trying to do probably a rebuild on the go. Yep. But Markstrom, looking at his contract as I pull it up here, give me a second, split second. Yeah. He's under contract for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I just think that the reason why they're probably running into that brick wall, I just think that one, they don't want to retain any of the cap, and two, is going to be they're probably asking for a high draft pick. And, for a 34-year-old goalie who might be good this season and might not be next season, you don't want to give all that kind of stuff up. You don't want to give up both of those pieces. And for Calgary, they're probably looking for both pieces in return because he is hot. He has carried this team through some wins. So It's one of those things. It's like, listen, the guy's producing right now. You take him or you don't. Yeah. And I think that's where it's at.
I mean, that's a fair... that's a fair talking point to have, really, or a viewpoint I should say to have. I think with Markstrom, you have him under contract through the end of this year and the 2 seasons after that. And he's getting older, right? He's getting older. So you also got to look at this from Markstrom's window. Like, hey, do I want to stay in Calgary and go through a complete rebuild or like a rebuild on the go again? Or do I maybe want to go to a team like Devils that think they're a piece away and maybe I'm the difference maker, right? And that's what's going to be interesting to see. Because if I'm Markstrom, I'm sure as shit would not mind going to the Devils. Just like, hey, new scenery. Even if this year doesn't work out, they're a team on the rise and should be improving year by year. Yep. So let's talk about we already kind of talked about the Devils' goaltending woes. Vanacek has been horrific. Same thing with
Schmidt just came back from an injury, so he's been gone for a good portion of the season, right? Dawes looked good when he first started, and then
he cooled off.
Completely cooled off, and it just hasn't been good for them. The worst part about this whole scenario is that the Devils are not that far away from a playoff spot, right? So they're close, and again, one or two pieces away. And if they had one of those two pieces, like they can start moving towards the right direction. But the question still lays whether they're going to get it or not in time.
Yeah, I mean that's where a lot of your question marks are for a team like the Devils, right? Are they going to be? Do they have enough time? And if I'm being honest, I don't think they do, right? Even if you get Markstrom, there's other issues, there's other woes, the secondary scoring. I think now that some players are healthy, should be a bit better, but I still have some question marks. And then the honest to God question, like if you get Markstrom, you're probably going to have to ride him into the playoffs, right? You're going to have to ride him till the end of the season. Do you have confidence enough in one of these goalies to be a backup to give you good enough goaltending to get wins when Markstrom isn't playing?
Right.
And as of right now, I'm not really sure. Not really sure.
Now I have a question for you, right? Obviously, I know that the Rangers are trying to make a move for these two guys. But would you think that the Devils would try to make a move for Henrique and Vetrano from the Anaheim Ducks, who, hey, let's face it, they have some, they've been on fire pretty much all season. They put up points. They're not bad. For a team that's trying to compete, I think they'll be a good pickup. For a team that's in the playoff position, they'll be a great pickup, especially, again, I know the Rangers currently are in those conversations because the GM for Anaheim has been in the building and the Garden looking at the players. So he's definitely reviewing something, and they're coming really close to making a deal. But could the Devils like swoop in and make, like cut throat and say, all right, you know what? We're going to take them this time. We're going to take this deal. Let's make this happen kind of thing. So, I think that could boost them to that position where they might be a little bit more in a better situation to make the playoffs and compete better.
So the problem I have, so I'm going to actually kind of bring it up because it is a good idea to bring up, right? The problem I have, it'd be smart if I included it into the stream, right? The problem I have with the Devils is that they really don't have cap space. So, and just because I'm going to show here that on the Anaheim depth chart, it's going to go into their stats. Henrique is a $5.825 million cap hit. I know his contract expires at the end of the year, but that's still, you'd have to fit that under your cap. Vetrano, I think, is a little bit more reasonable, $3.65 million, but he's not just through the end of this year, but the end of next year as well. The Devils would have to do some type of cap shenanigans to make it work.
So let me, sorry to cut in here, but any deal made for these two, which has been one of the big talks with Anaheim, period, is that they're going to have to retain 50% of the salary, and whatever team that they're trading, there may have to be a third team involved, which is one of the reasons why I believe the Rangers are taking so long to pull the trigger. And there's I think one or two other teams that have also been looking at a similar deal. The only problem is you're going to need a third team involved to retain some of the cap space. And when you look at the teams that have the cap room to make this happen, they're going to have some desires that you're not going to want to let go, whether you're Anaheim or the team getting the players.
Right. No, like Anaheim has a ton of cap space to play with, 8.5 mil, right? I mean, they're not a very good team, and I think the cap kind of space shows that. They're very young, though. I mean, they have a lot of promising players like McTavish, Carlson, yada, yada, yada. But when I look at the Devils, I mean, even if you go through a three-way trade, they're going to have to they're going to have to move some piece out, right? And who is it going to be, right? I mean, do you move off of Eric Halla, right? 3.1 mil, give you a little bit more flexibility on that end, or do you move off a guy like Kevin Miller who expires? Like, it'll be interesting, and I mean they could maybe make it work in a 3-way trade, right? But I think Henrique's contract, just kind of bringing it back up, I think Henrique's contract is going to be the most he'll be a far more difficult player to get just because of, it's 5.825. So you're going to have to kind of really half. I mean, it's doable. It's doable. It's doable. I mean, I think ideally you get Frank Vetrano, who's had a pretty good season.
The guy's sniping. He's sniping from everywhere nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Vetrano, he's had a really good season. He's definitely cooled off in the beginning of the year. But yeah, I mean, I think that'd be those could be nice additions. But what's the Ducks asking price going to be for these players? I mean, with a guy like Henrique, his contract's expiring. He's had a decent year. He'll have a market. So I don't think you ask anything unreasonable for him. But a guy like Vetrano, who you have term control over, what's the asking price?
So I mean, hear me out here, Devils fan. I'm sorry if this one hurts a little bit, but I would give up Mercer, and I would give up maybe even Kevin Ball, both in 22, 23. And with a decent, they look decent. They look like they can do something, right? But they're old enough where you kind of know where it looks like you know what you're gonna get for them, right? And then maybe a third-round draft pick to make that trade happen. If I was the Devils, if I was serious about trying to make the playoffs.
The problem I'd have is with Ball. He's probably a bigger defenseman. He's had pretty good stats this year. I mean, Mercer. I mean, I would make that trade. He's younger and all that, but I would make that trade if he felt like it was a massive improvement. But I think if you get rid of Ball, I'm not really sure if there's anybody to kind of replace what you need from him on the back end.
Well, you'll try to pick up one of, get somebody from there or whatever. I mean, they have that Cal Foot guy. Foot's still available to them, isn't he?
No.
Yep. I remember now.
I don't want to get demonetized. I don't want to get demonetized.
Yep. How soon is Dougie coming on? Oh yeah, he's out indefinitely. I mean, looking at their backups, yeah, there's really nothing out there. But man.
That's why I just don't think the Devils are gonna make the playoffs. And if I'm them, I'm not making a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
A guy I would target for them would be Vetrano because he has term, but I wouldn't sell the house just for a desperate push. That, let's be honest, most likely they're not going to make it. Not to be a pessimistic person, Devils fans. I'm just saying, you are in, let's bring this back up. You are in a
very
Eastern Conference, that you have Detroit and Tampa in the wild card spots. And when I look at this team, Detroit, Tampa, better than the Devils. New York Islanders, I think are better. Washington Capitals, Devils, I could argue around same. Yeah. But, it's just kind of interesting in that regard. And speaking of a team that has struggled this season and has not been good, is the Pittsburgh Penguins.
It's been good.
They might be sellers. They might be sellers at the trade deadline. Trade Sidney Crosby to the Bruins. Book it. Send it. No.
Please stop. This fantasy world you live in, sir.
Dude, I would love that. I'm not gonna lie. That would be amazing. All seriousness though, the Devils have not had their usual year. I mean, they brought in Erik Karlsson, right?
Oh God, we ragged on the whole situation to begin the season.
It came. A lot of the things we talked about that people
fruition.
don't want to recognize. He had a very good statistical year, and I think he's done, okay. I think he's done fine, right? He's when you look at Karlsson, 59 games played, 8 goals, 35 assists for 43 points, right? Not plus minus of 9. I think he's been really good, but he's not $10 million though. He's not. He's not a $10 million defenseman, and you essentially hamstrung yourself against the cap. I think, quite frankly, it was a mistake.
Yeah,
I think they could have got other pieces. They could have done other things because, like, when I look at this, right, let's make this very clear. Crosby's still producing at an elite level. 59 games played, 32 goals, 31 assists for 63 points. Evgeny Malkin, has slowed down a little bit, but 46 points, 59 games played for a guy that's making $6 million, that's really good. Like, you are getting a bargain. You are getting a bargain for these guys. But then look at the disaster you see in the bottom six. You know, and it's just, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. And I think when you invest that much money in one player that's not even, and this might get me a little flack, I don't consider him in his prime anymore.
Yeah.
It's a massive overpay. Now, he could maybe turn back the clock next year, or like, I mean, this year he's done solid. I don't want to say like he's playing terrible.
Right. He's done solid.
He's not 10 million.
Exactly. I think 7 mil, you know, around the 7 mil mark is kind of where he's playing right now. 43 points for the season so far. I think that's pretty reasonable for what age he is, his skill set, and you know the overall. But for 10 mil, yeah, you're definitely expecting someone who at this point should have at least 60 points from the defensive side.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, appreciate you fooling the rain, and Jones coming on in. Good to see you guys. I appreciate you popping through. But I mean, it's just. They're not a very good team this season, right? And like the goaltending, actually, we kind of switched that back over to that tab, right?
Yep. It's not that bad. It's not horrific.
It's not. That's what I was gonna say though. Tristan Jarry, 9-10 save percentage, 2.60 goals against average, and that's a little bit above. This is above league average save percentage. Nedeljkovic, 9-10, 2.85 goals against average, 20 games played. Like, you're getting adequate enough goaltending. You can't really just blame this on the goaltending. I think it's just there's a lack of secondary help, right? I mean, it doesn't help that, you know, Gensel, he's now out. What did he play? Yeah, he did play 50 games. Yeah. He's out for 4 weeks, 52 points and 50 games played. I mean, Brandon Rust, he's week to week still, 36 points and 42 games played. Just, you infuse them in this lineup. You do have better secondary scoring, but it's just I expected them to be better than they are this year.
I'll tell you, one of the difference makers over the past couple of years where they've been competitive has been that fourth line with Jeff Carter being the center. I think that this year, the age has finally hit him. I mean, he's 39. He's only got 9 points. He's played 53 games. Yeah, I think that, you know, the 39 thing kind of finally hit him. Like, he really realized, woke up one day during the middle of the season and was like, oh, man, I'm 39 years old. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it just isn't translating currently. And I think that that's probably been their biggest downfall. That fourth line isn't as productive as it has been in past years. The third line is somewhat, you know, not super productive, but they've kind of been in there, in and out, you know, where they've kind of made a difference. But again, you look at the overall top line and the second line, Evgeny Malkin, 46 points. You'd expect a little bit more from him normally at this time of the year. Crosby's been pulling his weight, but his wingers haven't. That's a problem. You know, again, you can't just put it on one guy's shoulder or two guys' shoulders. It's gonna weigh the team down.
That they're 36 and 37.
Exactly.
It's
I guess not gonna work.
I look at a guy like Malkin and 46 points, 59 games played for a $6.1 million cap hit. I'm fine with, right? Now, if he was making 10 mil, I'd be like, come on, right? But I think they're getting.
He should have 3 points less. My bad.
He should have 10 points less. Anyways, no. But like, I think they're doing adequate enough. I mean, Crosby's putting over 20 minutes time on ice, dude. Yeah. That's crazy at his age. Uh-huh. Now, still a fantastic player. Bruins, trade for him if you can. Okay. Don Sweeney, I'm looking at you. Trade Drake DeBrus for Sidney Crosby straight up. Who says no?
All right, how about this, right?
Who says no?
Boston gets Sidney, and the Rangers get Malkin.
Shit, I mean, that's
a win-win. That's a way to win.
Fenway Sports Group, because they're the ones who own Pittsburgh, we punch in the air like, no, never gonna happen, never gonna happen. But yeah, I mean, they've been kind of just they've been a disappointment, to say the very least, in the Eastern Conference, especially when you had some people that I think they jumped to conclusion, like when they made that Erik Karlsson trade, and we talked about it at the time.
Yep.
Yeah, people saying they're cup favorites, and I'm like, calm down, relax. They got a good team, and if everybody stays healthy, they have a solid team and should maybe be in a wild card spot. But some people were jumping the shark.
I mean, let's just be realistic, right? Unfortunately for the Pens, right? And this is again, I want everybody to understand that this is one of those teams that you need to do well overall for the NHL to do well. All right, and unfortunately, I think that Father Time has finally caught up to Pittsburgh, right? I mean, they do have young pieces, but the pieces that they depend on have hit that wall of a certain age and not being able to be the extra big superstar to carry, right? Again, they're putting up their numbers, but when everybody around them isn't putting up the quality numbers that they need as support, it's not gonna help you. And that's where Pittsburgh is kind of hit that wall.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go into our last segment here, right? And this is gonna be very near and dear to my heart. The Toronto Maple Leafs, are they a cup contender to you, Fajardo? You go first. I'm just gonna come off as a hater.
I will tell you, the way they are constructed this year, yes, they actually are. They are playing defensive hockey more than I've seen them over the past couple of years, and obviously, yes, last year they got past the curse first round. But this year's defense, I think maybe they watched the show at the beginning of the season and understood that, oh wow, we need to get some defense here. Yeah, they've gotten better defensively. And not only on the defensive core, but as a team, they're playing better defense. And I think that's making the difference in how they're winning games. They recently played the Rangers. I watched that. And the difference between the two was their defense. Normally, you know them as a run and gun style type of team.
Yeah.
And I got to say, they were breaking out from the defense first. It wasn't just run and gun. So they kind of figured out a few things that were a big flaw to them over the years, and they've cleaned that up. And I definitely consider them to, again, yes, I am considering them to be a contender.
All right, so I'm going to have to pause right through real quick. Dun-dun-dun. Mantha has been traded from the Washington Capitals to the Golden Knights. Let's share this on tab. All right, okay, I appreciate the comment. That would be a smart thing, wouldn't it? Right? I'm scrolling through it. Russ is hitting real quick, boys. And Capitals trading winger Anthony Mantha to the Golden Knights. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, that's interesting. So the Washington Capitals are sending power forward Anthony Mantha to the Vegas Golden Knights. Sportsnet can confirm the 6'5", 234-pound Mantha, 29, is on the pace to have one of his most productive seasons since joining the NHL in 2016. He has 20 goals, 14 assists for 34 points. So the Vegas Golden Knights already have a massive roster of humans. Just got even bigger.
Come on, guys.
So I'm not even talking about skills. There's huge human beings.
Oh, either you or I, one of us, were lagging right there. We apologize to everybody, but either you sounded really robotic or I'm sounding really robotic right now.
It's probably me. But is it less robotic now?
No, still super robotic.
I don't have anything going on my screen, or I don't have any Wi-Fi thing for me. So
I don't know. So we apologize for the technical difficulties, everyone. But here we are.
I'll say it. You guys keep commenting if it's that bad. Mantha is a rental, as he's in the final year of his 4-year, $22.8 million deal. He originally signed with the Detroit Red Wings. The Capitals are 7 points out of a playoff spot. Wow, that's going to be interesting to see. Wow, that's going to be very interesting to see how that kind of pans out there for the Golden Knights. Let me kind of switch over here. I wonder, I don't know if this is too early for it even to be on cap friendly at this point. Probably.
It's not on cap friendly yet. No.
No, it's not on cap friendly. Well, we'll take a gander anyways. Here. So, this is the Vegas Golden Knights roster without Anthony Mantha. Okay, so I want to make that very clear. But I mean, the rich get even richer, right? The rich get even richer. I mean, Marchessault is 5'9", right? But look at this: Barbashev, Eichel 6'2", Stevenson 6 foot, Carlson 6 foot, Amadio 6'1", Waugh 6'4", Cotter 6 feet. You're gonna get him even bigger. That's crazy. And I think that this should be a very good addition because when I look at the top 9 of the Vegas Golden Knights, oh man, Mantha would be a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially with how productive he's. He could probably, you know, split duties between the second and third line. And it kind of, I really like these. I like that trade. Now, they didn't really say what was traded, like what was dealt in return. I think that's all going to be coming down the pipe. But I mean, I like that trade there for the Vegas Golden Knights. What about you?
I definitely think it's a big plus for that team. Obviously, you know, they have a squad already. Adding more depth to the squad is just going to make it a lot easier to pick them coming out of the West. You know, because they already have the formula, right? Like, most of this team is still a lot of the same guys from last season. And they have the formula to the big guns of the West, right? Obviously, we're talking about McDavid, McKinnon, right. Those guys, and their teams. And I feel like, yeah. I mean, for them, it's going to be big. Adding another player that can score, that can bring that physicality, and put some points up there. Because, again, as we've said plenty of times in the show and other shows, it's not just about the top 2 lines, right? It's about the top 2 lines and then the secondary scoring, which come from the third and fourth line, and adding someone like Mantha who can put some points up into the third line or fourth line. I think that's huge for them because it's going to be one of those situations where, he's a complementary piece to the rest of the puzzle. Yeah.
So, like I said, 56 games played, 20 goals. I almost fell off. 20 goals, 14 assists for 34 points. And this has been one of his more productive years. He's definitely on pace to have his best year. The highest point total he's ever had in season is 48 points, which he did twice with the Red Wings. One season only in 67 games played, the other one in 80. I do like this. He's a big body, big kid. Now, it depends what they give up because the article has not said yet what they gave up. Now, if they ended up giving up multiple first-round picks, I think that would be not a great trade. But I'm assuming it's just a pure rental. They're trying to bring him in and see how it fits. And for a Vegas team that is one of the best in the NHL, especially, recently they haven't been performing well. Let me make that as a side note. But when healthy and invested, I still think the Vegas Golden Knights are easily a top 5 NHL team. Mm-hmm. So, wow, that was a quick news. Back to our regular schedule.
We just got sued by ESPN. Thanks, bud.
We got
appreciate you.
Back to our regularly scheduled programming. So, Fajardo thinks that the Toronto Maple Leafs are contenders, right? That's what he thinks. He thinks they're contenders. And, the hater in me just wants to say it's Toronto, right? It's Toronto, right? They breed failure in that market, right? I mean, the most successful thing to come out of Toronto is Steve Dangle yelling about a Zamboni driver, right? And I love me some Steve Dangle, but I'm being real. It's the most successful thing out of Toronto is the legendary Steve Dangle. But I'll say this. All right, I'll say this. I'll put the hater way down. I'll relax for a minute and just give a fair evaluation. All right. So they're currently sitting third in the Atlantic. Boston has cooled off immensely since the All-Star break. Maybe that game against Toronto could heat them up, but Boston decides that every game's going to overtime. But the Maple Leafs have really had a nice surge. I mean, when we talked about, you don't exist on this channel for a while, so when I talked about
that's where we're going.
I'm just joking with you. Ilya Samsonov, when he was falling off the wagon, there was genuine concern because Joseph Wall, Samsonov, you went to Martin Jones. Martin Jones steadied the ship. Samsonov went down. Then he's turned things around and he's looked steady. And Joseph Wall's come back, and I think he's done pretty well. He still continues to look really good. Are they the best team in the Atlantic? No, I still think that's Florida. Are they better than the Bruins? I think it's kind of a push. I think when the Bruins are clicking all cylinders, I think they're a better team than Toronto still just because of the defensive style. But I'll say this. As much fun as it is to mock the Maple Leafs, looking at the roster here, they do have some good talent. I mean, Austin Matthews has 53 goals in 60 games. Which is absolutely bonkers, right?
He has 6 hat tricks this season.
Yeah, it's nuts what he's doing, right? He's on pace to be one of the best USA-born players of all time. And if the Arizona Coyotes created Austin Matthews and nothing else, it was a success. Mitchell Marner, 74 points. He's done well. Matthew Knives, rookie, come in. He's done okay in his spots. Tyler Bertuzzi, I think he's done better recently. He was kind of a disaster to begin the season. Max Domi, he giving you what you expect out of Max Domi. William Nylander. I had somebody complain about William Nylander my latest video when I made about the Bruins and the Leafs game. But 83 points, 61 games played, and he had 8 points in his last 5, including the one in Boston where he scored nothing, right? He's had a really good year. John Tavares, he's getting older, he's getting longer in the tooth, but he is what he is. I think he can be productive in a middle six role.
Well, hold on right there, right? And I just want to point this out. He's $11 million, and I understand super overpay for him, but him in that role is so crucial for the team's success because he, as an individual, has contributed 45 points. So forget about his price tag. Yeah, we know he's overpaid. Right, everybody knows he's overpaid, right? But 45 points coming from one player on your third line, yeah, that's a lot. He bounces up between the power play here and there, but he's sitting pretty decently in the third line. They've taken him in and out of the top 6 because he's been inconsistent this season. But even when he's down, like he kind of finds his game on that third line coming in, and then when they move him back up to the top 6, not so much. I think they need to keep him on that third line and let that third line kind of cook against other third lines.
I think Tavares, last night proved I don't know if you saw that shot he had to get the only goal for the Maple Leafs. It was incredible. It was a freaking rocket, right?
He still got something in the tank.
Tavares is a good player. He's not $11 million at all. No. And at all, right? I could, I made that argument about Karlsson. I could kind of make that argument. I can make that argument about Tavares. What are you doing? Are you opening something? What the fuck?
Oh yeah, I am. Go.
John Tavares is still an effective player. Now,
yes.
When I look at the Maple Leafs, right? What's the biggest question mark you've had about this team for years?
Defense.
The defense, right?
Defense, 100%.
You got Morgan Riley. I think he's solid enough, right? They brought back, I should say, Labushkin. They brought in, they traded for him. Mm-hmm. TJ Brody, Liljegren, Benoit, McCabe. It's solid. It's solid. I don't think it's anything crazy.
No, but that's and we've said this plenty of times. All they need is a solid defense because their offense carries so much weight already. You know what I mean? Having a solid defense with an overpowered offense makes it digestible.
Yeah, but I would argue last night against the Bruins, it kind of showed a lot of those issues in high-pressure games. I thought that was a very good game, but when the Maple Leafs made mistakes, it was head-scratching, what are you doing type mistakes. So that is a genuine concern I have about them. And in one area of the ice, I'm actually less concerned now than I was before, probably in comparison to last year. I do think Joseph Wall, Boston College alum, I think he'll be solid for him. Samsonov has been far better than he has. You have a good third goalie with Martin Jones. I'm not as worried about the goaltending now with the Maple Leafs. I'm wondering if their defense can match the level their offense hits. Now with the Leafs though, they kind of have a non-existent fourth line, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world. But my big concern for them is their defense. If they're going to be good enough to be a Stanley Cup contender.
Yeah, again, I think that they can compete because if you get those guys to show up where we need them to show up, right? It's kind of like, oh man, they kind of got it, right? Where other teams, even if they show up, you're like, yeah, nah, you're not doing anything, and that's kind of what Toronto was in the years of past, right? Even though they had a team, you were like, oh man,
yeah,
they're gonna score. What's gonna be the shootout score because you know they had no defense.
Right.
In this scenario, even decent defense that prevents maybe 1 or 2 goals and only allows 4 when your team may get 6, you're winning.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I like it's just a question mark, and like when we're talking about these cup contender conversations, right? The levels of it change drastically, right? Like where it's like, oh, is that a playoff team? I mean, absolutely. Are they a very good team? Absolutely. But when you're thinking cup contender, and I think we've had this conversation before on the channel, I only think like a true cup contender is 2 or 3 teams, right? Like to me, I don't look at Boston as a cup contender in the regard that like they're a favorite, right? I think Florida's a cup contender when I look at them, right? I like Winnipeg's goaltending situation. I think Vancouver could be, but Vancouver, they haven't been there. Don't have that. How would I put this? They kind of have to show me, right? Because this is like after last year where they really weren't a factor. This year they're coming on strong.
They got to show you what they've learned.
Yeah, and like with Colorado, I look at them as a cup contender, and it's like if you go down the standings, right, and just like boom, cup contender. I mean, Carolina, do I look at them as a cup favorite? Or maybe I should probably change my vernacular where I'm saying more cup favorites. Like I look at Florida, I look at Colorado, and Vegas. And like Vegas, if you look at them, just record-wise, when Vegas is healthy, I still look at them as a favorite just because the style in which they play translates in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? You know? Yeah. And like a team like Boston, as a fan I am of them, they have that one cup run, but they've also had many times where they've failed, right? And it fallen off the wagon.
Question, right? Because I know that this is on some people's minds, perhaps. So what you're basing your cup contenders on is on recent success where they've already proven that they can pass certain obstacles as a franchise, not the players that they currently have, because obviously players change from time to time or whatever.
It's a mixture of both. Right, okay. Because I think sometimes it takes a process to build a winner. Now, I think with the Vegas Golden Knights, people forget, like they had some deep playoff runs, right? And they didn't win, right? And mind you, people do have a problem with how that roster was formed with the draft, or the expansion draft, yada yada yada. But they built a team, and they were a good playoff team, and then they eventually got over the hump. Right? The Florida Panthers, I look in the same situation, right? They went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year after squeaking in. And they showed last season that last season playoff run was not a fluke, and they've been a really good team. Boston, right? They've got out of the first round, they've done okay, but then they'll have their playoff failures. I mean, it's, as a Bruins fan, that pains me to say, but that's just the truth. I mean, Vancouver Canucks, like, has this core had playoff success? No. The New York Rangers are a team, right? I don't necessarily look.
Let's not do this.
No.
We're not doing this, sir. Negative.
New York Rangers are a team that have tremendous amount of potential, but they got to kind of prove it to me. The Winnipeg Jets, I think it's kind of a similar situation. I like Hellebuck. I like the guys, but they got to prove to me the playoffs. Like guys like Nathan McKinnon with Colorado. He's proven to me he can win a cup. He can prove to me, like, last season, what were they out in the first round against Seattle? I have question marks about numerous teams around the NHL, like Carolina. Are they good enough offensively, right, to be good enough? Are the Maple Leafs good enough defensively? Do the Oilers have good enough defense and goaltending to be good? Right. Because, like, when you look at these teams, it's such a small margin to make, like, from very good teams to, like, great teams. Right?
I will tell you right now, as a Ranger fan, they are not ready yet. They are not even. They're literally 1 or 2 players away. That's all it is. Because that third, fourth line, just not. No. So I don't consider them to be a contender at this point, to be honest. And I'm a diehard. Like, don't get it twisted. Yeah. I am a diehard. Yeah, they're not there yet. I will judge that team extremely difficult.
I mean, I think they have the pieces, but I agree They got to kind of show me when the time happens. Now, I'm very strict. Like if I'm gonna have to give you like 2 teams, I think I'll give you 3. Right? Let's do this. Give me your 3 teams. You're like, all right, that's a cup favorite, or give me the 4 teams. We'll balance it out. Give me 4 teams that you think could legitimately win the cup this year.
Okay, I'll give you 2 from each side.
Okay. Let me go. I'll go to the Eastern Conference. I'll make this a little easier for you.
Yep. Let's go to Eastern Conference. I will say Florida and Tampa.
Tampa?
Because Tampa, I'm telling you, bro, don't sleep on Tampa, bro. I feel like they put it on cruise control all season long and make playoffs, and then that's when they like, all right, let's get to work. I have a feeling,
but what about
they're going to have one of those incredible seasons this year where I'm not saying they're going to win the cup, but they're going to be a threat to win.
I'll say this: if they could get Hannafin, because they've been rumored, Tampa, Florida, and Boston are rumored to be in those conversations. Mm-hmm. If Tampa gets Hannafin, I'm actually kind of with you because they do have good offense. Kucherov's been a monster. You actually get a legitimate top 4 defenseman, and I mean Vasilevsky has proven.
He's back.
He's Vasilevsky. So okay, all right. So Florida and Tampa for you out the East. Okay. So we're gonna go to the Western Conference.
All right, West. I'm gonna hand the reins over to Dallas and the Golden Knights. Dallas and the Golden Knights. Yeah.
All right. So I mean, I'm not mad at that selection. I mean, for me, the Eastern Conference. Boston, and Boston. No. But, I would say the Florida Panthers. And I think in the Eastern Conference is a little bit more open in comparison to the West. To me, I look at the Florida Panthers, and this is going to go against my own philosophy when I say this.
Okay.
Carolina. That's going to go against my own philosophy because they've kind of struggled in the postseason, but I think they have a good roster, solid, deep roster. You've had players produce. Mm-hmm. They have a plethora of depth scoring. Kochetkov has been really good for the Hurricanes, and I just like the style in which they play.
They have a great style, and if entirely healthy, yeah, I can see them being a contender. I just, again, I'm still left with that question mark that we had last year, right? Who of the offense? Who's the offense? Like, obviously last year they went into the playoffs with some injuries that completely cost their offense. But all right, let's say they get past the first and second round, and they get into the third round. Where's their offense coming from if those guys are shut down?
Yeah, I mean, I think Aho, Svechnikov. I think Svech not being healthy last year hurt them.
100%.
But I think if health provided, they should be a pretty damn good team.
Yeah.
I think that I would put them in that category. As for out west, I'm obviously going to go in the Chicago Blackhawks. Connor Bedard is going to lead.
I'm done. All right. Okay. Bye. See you guys next year.
So I would go with the Colorado Avalanche because Georgiev is not having amazing statistics this year, but he's been a workhorse. He's been playing a bunch of games. I like Nathan McKinnon. I like, Kyle McCarr. I like the defense. Nichushkin has finally come back, so they're really good. And then I would say the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, they just brought in Anthony Mantha. They've got a bigger team. It's just gotten bigger. And once they keep doing their cap manipulation tactics, right? Like, it doesn't matter in the postseason, but if you had a roster of like Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and all the pieces that they have currently up front, I do like how they look. And I think Adin Hill, somebody we really don't talk about, has had a pretty damn solid season. Now, he missed some time due to injury for a bit, but, I think he's done admirably.
I think low key that was a blessing in disguise because he got rest. I think that was a super big blessing in disguise. Yeah, he was injured, he came back, and I think that rest while he was injured was huge for him.
I mean, let's kind of take it a quick gander poo, and we'll probably wrap it up after this. Go to roster. Go to Aiden. Come on. Aiden Hill. Actually, it's kind of interesting because Logan Thompson was looked at like as the big ticket there for a bit. But, 26 games played, 15 wins, 2 shutouts, 2.49 goals against average, 920 save percentage. His last couple games, the last 5, he's kind of come back down to earth a little bit, right? He had a good game against Toronto because everyone has a good game against Toronto. God shade. Sorry, you're a Bruin fan.
Oh my God,
you're a Bruin fan coming out. But no, I think Aiden Hill, if he can play the rest of the season and finish out with like a 915 or plus save percentage, I think that's a good investment. He's a bigger goaltender, still young. But yeah, I do like Aiden Hill. He's proven he can take a team to the cup, right? He's been there, done that. So.
Yeah, he's won it. So
he's won it. So, but all right, we're gonna probably start skedaddling out of here, folks. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who are your 4 Stanley Cup favorites to win it all this season? I'm gonna be going on the boat tomorrow. I leave here at 4 in the fucking morning. Jesus Christ. I'm not looking forward to that. So.
Oh, man. And don't forget to check out our reaction channel.
Oh, yeah. Check out our Reaction 8-Bit Entertainment. Our last upload was 10 years ago.
Still gaining traction.
Still gaining traction.
So we decided that we're gonna somehow bring this bad boy back.
Absolutely. We're going to start doing it again. And so the Bruins sadly will need luck to get past the first round, but the playoffs, anything can happen. And that's true, right? Yep. Nobody went to the playoffs last year and was like, yeah, the Panthers are going to go to the Cup Finals. No one thought that. I know I didn't. I didn't. I didn't. But I appreciate everybody that has kind of been sticking through watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and all that good jazz. I don't know when the next upload will be. Actually, I do know because I'll probably release it tomorrow because I'm not sure when I'll be back home. But for the next week, I will be on the boat. I might be able to come home certain nights, might not be able to other nights. So I'll have a little bit of an erratic upload schedule. But with Fajardo coming back into the fold, we'll be able to get some more uploads when I'm away. So appreciate you coming through, man.
Thank you. Glad to be back. To everyone, I apologize. I've been gone for so long. I had some personal matters that needed tending to. Most of that stuff has been taken care of to this point, and yeah, glad to be back. And can't leave you guys with Captain Paul going wild. That's absolutely, man. It's not a pretty sight. I saw him in his tutu and bra. Negative.
Yeah, man. I don't know what fantasies you have, but all right. I'm Paul Locker. I'll see you in the next one. Stupid.
Peace.